Look at that wonderful Pokemon landscape. Actually, you see this guy over here? He's not Pokemon. But he's perfect for setting up my camera, which I'm gonna do right now. Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Unrested. Time to answer some Facebook JFAQ questions. Let's begin with Melissa. What are the cons about an American living in Japan? The cons, I guess, are kind of the stereotypes that a lot of Americans have, that we're fat and we eat a lot and we are aggressive. So I guess that would be some of the cons. How do you think this will affect relationships with your family living in America? Will affect, like, in the future? I think little by little, people, as they get to know me, understand more and more that I'm not the typical American or the stereotype that they have in their mind. So I don't think it'll affect you less and less the longer you live here, because honestly you become more Japanese. Jeremy writes, when's the last time you were in America? I was in America September 2011. Did it feel foreign to you? Yes, it did feel foreign to me. I was concerned with the fact that everybody could understand what I was saying in English. Share anything you'd like to about your new impressions of America after living in Japan so long. Number one, I felt bad about people's job situation. When I got there, all my friends who had graduated college with me were still working like minimum wage jobs, whereas I was a teacher. I was still a teacher. I wasn't an illustrator yet. I was a teacher back in Japan, making, I mean, not great money, but decent money. Honestly, I was a little bit depressed after I went there. I felt really sorry for my friends. Ashia writes, have you ever been bullied or treated bad by Japanese people? Yes, I have. Which do you prefer to be with, a fellow gaijin or Japanese friends? Okay, well, I'm wondering if you wanted me to give an example. I think I had done it before. I had a salaryman one time come up to me and be really racist. He was really drunk, so I didn't do anything about it. Like, I didn't like punch him in the face or something. But I did use some choice words in Japanese, let's put it that way. And he was quite surprised I spoke Japanese and understood what he had been saying. Do I like to be with fellow gaijin or Japanese friends? Honestly, where the person's from doesn't really matter to me so much as if our personalities fit together. And sometimes that happens with gaijin people, and sometimes that happens with Japanese people. I really don't have much of either friends at this point because I'm a busy dad. And now I understand why my dad never had many friends, was because he was busy. Rise writes, I know the drink prices in Japanese bars can be pretty steep, but what are music venues like when there is a gig going on for, say, the price of beer? You're looking at about 500 yen, which is about $5 a beer. If it's really good, 300 yen. But you're right, some places are stupid expensive. Haido Sato says, have you been to Hard Off store? That sounds like really crazy to probably some people. They're like, Hard Off? Well, what kind of porno store is that? Hard Off is a subsidiary of Book Off, which is a place where people can turn in their old mangas and books, and Book Off will actually clean them up. They do something really amazing that, I don't know, maybe bookstores in America do this too, but the edges, how they're yellow on a book pages, like all the pages are like yellow, they have a special machine that like finely cuts off that yellow and makes them look like brand new. It's amazing. Anyway, they have another place called Hard Off, and they actually have a couple different places. And Haido, correct me if I'm wrong, but Hard Off is the hardware place, like people who have used hardware. I've never actually been to that store. I know there's another one that's like furniture too. I don't know if that's called like Wood Off. I'm just waiting for them to like come out with a place that has like used mining equipment, and they can call it Jack Off. Get it? That's so funny. Rise writes another one. I also don't think I sent in time for the last JFAQ. If you could answer, what's one good metal bar in Osaka? I'd say probably the best metal bar I know of, and there's not really many good ones, honestly, is there's one on the very top of Shinsai Bashi's old loft, and I forget the name of that one, I should know, but a lot of death metal bands come there. And then there's one in Atlanticus. It's one called Atlanticus. It's in Amemura. It's called Atlanticus. But Atlanticus is spelled with a Q. Atlantiquis, which is a very strange spelling. That's why I've just spelled it for you now. How nice of me. Carlos writes, I heard Osaka has the highest crime rate in Japan, so I have a question on that. Let's be honest, how bad is it really? Especially when compared to American states. How bad is it really when compared to America? It's a playground. I would say it's like maybe nothing compared to America. I mean, your most dangerous place in Japan is still safer than your safest place in America. I don't know. I can't say that totally. Roppongi has some really sketchy areas, and I've had some friends who've been taken advantage of there as far as like been given drinks that are drugged and their credit cards charged for a lot of money. So I guess there's like that, but I've never had anyone be like, and then they beat me severely. That never happened. I've never had anybody I know get mugged or anything like that. Dennis writes, in your Facebook JFAQ3, you mentioned that you bought a house and you're now a ground owner. I think you mean a property owner? How expensive was it? In terms of American dollars, around 250,000 American dollars. How expensive is buying a ground house? Oh, I don't have a house. I have an apartment. So almost every apartment building in Japan, you can buy individual apartments like they're condos. Almost every single one. So that's what I've done. I've never actually bought like your typical 3-story house that we have here in Japan, because in Tennoji it would be so expensive that I probably couldn't even afford the tax on it. So that's why I did not buy that. Ahmed writes, did you meet any Muslims in Japan? No, I have not, I'm sorry. And if so, how do they feel about living their faith in Japan? You know, I get a lot of questions from Muslims about special dietary situations in Japan, and does Japan cater to those? I taught at an international school that had Muslims and other people from India who had special diets, and they did cater to them. So I think most places really respect, especially if you're going to like an international college or something, they'll respect your dietary needs that are connected to your faith. So I think that's not something you have to worry about, but I would still check it out no matter what. Emma writes, have you seen any Swedish restaurants? No, I have not. Or any Swedish food in grocery stores? Yes, there's Swedish food in 2 different grocery stores here called Yamaya and Seijo. I know they have IKEA, but is there anything besides that? There is an IKEA here in Osaka. It's wonderful. It's like the closest thing I'll ever come to visiting Sweden. Sorry. Dennis writes, you said you were teaching in Japan, but you were tattooed back then? Yes. I want to tattoo my arm, but I'm not too sure about it because of the Japanese opinion. How did you hide them? In Japanese, we say nagasode. You know how we say that in English? Long sleeves. Oh my goodness, this person's name. I am so sorry that I'm about to mispronounce your name. Thamitra Smith? Is there skateboarding? Is there a skateboarding community in your area? There is down in Amemura. It's not so vast anymore because the police have kind of cracked down on it. If not, would you say that skateboarding is seen more in a city like Tokyo? I've only been to Tokyo like 2 or 3 times, and I didn't really have time to check out any skateboard scenes there, so I don't know, sorry. Okay, next, John writes, number 1, have you ever been to a concert since moving to Japan? Yes. If so, how is the experience different, if at all, from shows in the US? Well, Japanese crowds are known to not get so crazy. I've been to a Maximum the Hormone concert, I've been to Kyari Pami Pami concert, I've been to Cradle of Filth when they came here, and I don't want to like mock the way Japanese people handle a concert, but they tend to just like sway back and forth like this no matter which concert I go to. Like the craziest they'll do is like jump up and down, but be very cautious they don't hit each other. I think it's about politeness, not about not wanting to get crazy, but you don't want to go there and like try and start a vicious mosh pit. I mean, there's some places that it's happened, like a little bit of a mosh pit, but it's super friendly, which I guess is a good thing. I don't want to see anybody get hurt. Number 2, as far as camping goes, is it the same principle as here? Not quite. We'll get into that. Can you just go into the wilderness with a tent and just camp, provided you have a permit if needed? Or is it closely grouped, cleared spots designated for camping? I haven't been to many places. I've probably only been to like 5 places to go camping, and every time I went, not only did we not bring our own tent, but there were tents already set up there on like little board floors. Like you would go to like scout camp. I don't know if any of you have been to Boy Scout camp. I would say like every camping place I've ever been to here in Japan is like Boy Scout camp. It's pre-set up tents, and even at the cleared out spot like this guy's talking about, there's a security guard out there in the middle of the forest. Less to say, it doesn't really feel too much like you're camping, aside from the fact that, you know, there's trees everywhere, and of course you've got your bugs and your wild animals, but yeah, it doesn't really feel too campish. So I guess it is different, but you know what? I've only been to 5 places. I bet there is places you just go out with your own tent and you can really rough it and go wild if you want. So don't hold me to that answer. Dylan says, as far as supermarkets go, is there as much variety as there is in an American supermarket? No, there is not. I would say there's about 1/10 of the variety. It's like, for example, you'll go to the store and look at cereals. There's maybe 3 cereals. Okay, I'm not joking. You've got like Cocoa Flakes, Frosted Flakes, Muesli, and if they're going really crazy, there's like non-frosted flakes. Melissa says, how much do you pay for your cell phone monthly? I think I pay about 9,000 yen, which is about 90 bucks. Is it more expensive than Japan than in America? I haven't paid for a cell phone in America in like 8 years, so I don't know. Stephanie writes, first off, I want to thank you for putting the time and effort into answering questions. Okay, I enjoy your videos. Okay. I wanted to ask your experience from working in Japanese schools. Is there a huge pressure on girls to be beautiful and perfect? You mean the students, right? I'm going to say that you mean the students. I know all around the world there is issues with this, but lately there has been some attention on schoolgirls in South Korea being consumed by ideals and superficial beauty and going as far as having plastic surgery done at a young age. In Japan, is this a big issue? I would say what Japan really cares about most is that you are staying fit in high school, and that's not necessarily always a beauty thing. The Japanese people honestly believe that if you become even slightly like chubby or, you know, a little bit overweight, that they, you know, they call it, in Japanese, this is a Japanese word, like metabo syndrome, and that is metabolic syndrome, and they actually believe like this can really hurt your health. Japanese people also don't need to be very fat before they get diabetes, so it's something they would really worry about. So there's a lot of pressure on girls to stay skinny, and boys too. It's not just the girls. So some other countries might be like, that's too much pressure, oh my god, like, but I think honestly it's due to health concerns. There is not as much plastic surgery as South Korea. South Korea is crazy on that, and you are right, and it's actually to a point where even Japanese people are amazed by how much plastic surgery they get. But number one, plastic surgery in Japan is costly, it's expensive, and actually a lot of people who do get it go to South Korea because they're known for being some of the best doctors there and having the cheapest prices because it's on wholesale, everybody's getting it. Okay, Hunter says, first, about how many decent Italian restaurants are there where you live? I'd say 0. Second, what do you currently do for work? I'm an illustrator. Third, do a lot of Western bands come to Japan? Yep, a lot. And last, has your mind changed about Japan and the culture since you have gone there? Yeah, I think I've become more accepting than anything else, and I've slowly changed my own ways to become actually more polite, less aggressive, more relaxed in the way that I say things, and like taking my time to observe before I say anything. Also, which language do you think in the most? I still think in English the most, but I do, the weird thing is I have like dreams in Japanese sometimes now, which is really strange because also when you dream in another language, this might be every language, I don't know, but the people who talk to you always talk to you in Japanese that you know, so that you understand them. Like, obviously that's your mind reflecting back on itself, but anyway, I'm getting too into Inception here. Danny says, if a troublesome student misbehaves or does anything wrong, how should you handle the situation since you're an English teacher and basically a gaijin teacher? He's right, you're not a real teacher, you're actually just someone hired by the ward. Can you discipline students? That's something you need to actually talk to your school about when you start, or talk to your company about. Some schools like you to step in and take hold. At the same time, you're never expected to ever touch a student, so you definitely have to stay away from that. The only time I would say would you ever be allowed to touch a student is if he was going to injure another student. That's the only time I've ever heard of somebody doing that and they were okay. But for the most part, a lot of schools don't want you to intercept anything that's happening, and they prefer that a Japanese teacher takes care of it, because you are actually not supposed to be in charge of any kind of discipline. If the school's doing their job, they'll do all the discipline for you and their class will behave correctly. Chie, I hope I've pronounced your name right. Hey Scott, I have 2 questions. Where are great takoyaki? Where is great takoyaki? But you can't make a plural on that, so maybe she's right. And okonomiyaki, places to go in Osaka. Gosh, takoyaki. Okay, well, Dotonbori is known for having one of the most famous takoyaki stands. Okonomiyaki, you're going to be very disappointed to hear that I absolutely hate okonomiyaki. It's like one of the few, just one of the few. What's the other one? I can eat natto, I'm okay with that, but okonomiyaki and, God, what's this stuff? It tastes like a sponge. I can't remember it now, but there's something here, it's like brown and tastes like a sponge, and I can't stand it. Barry asks, can you recall what you were doing when the tsunami hit? I was teaching kindergarten, I remember, but you gotta remember I was in Osaka, so I just felt like light shock waves. Rachel says, how is mental health handled in Japan? Well, I've done a whole JFAQ on this, but it's not handled well, let's put it that way, Rachel. Is depression socially accepted or stigmatized? It is stigmatized. I heard some companies are getting away from super long hours and overtime. I've heard this too, but I've still seen many people still overworked. And drinking every night after work. I guess she's talking about nonkai, which is like a drinking party. And other pressures that contribute to mental health issues. I think companies are slowly starting to get away from that because they're reaching a point where people are not staying as loyal to a company if it's like that. And they are also people who will quit a job if they're unhappy with the way they're being treated. It's not like in the past where people would just literally work themselves to death. Okay, John says, are you a big anime fan? I'm a select anime fan. There's like some I like and some I really don't like, and you know, like I'm not into K-On! Like I know a lot of people are into K-On! Recently, I'm just not into it. It's not my thing. Mostly what I have time for, I should say, because probably I would like some series, but I just don't have time. I like just renting a lot of movies that'll be over and quick real fast. I can watch everything. Like you saw my reviews on my anime stuff. He also asks, is there any great ramen or small fast food restaurants you would recommend? Right next to my house, there's a Chinese restaurant with people from Okinawa who cook Chinese food. And it's really, really good fast food. He makes incredible gyoza. Alright, this next one is Sayi Taint Sojo. Did I say that right? I'm guessing I did not. What was dating like in Japan from your experience? It was fun. It was fun. Any funny stories? Yeah, I've got some funny stories. That would take a long time if I went through some funny stories. Language barriers? Yeah, definitely. Cultural mistakes you made? Not really, because I mean they knew they were dating a foreigner. They're not like, oh my god, you're white, like 5 hours into the, like, pros and cons when comparing dating in America. That one could get me murdered. What a question. It's like loaded. How'd you meet your wife? I met her in a bookshop in the English section. How's her English? It's so-so. She's not too bad. Her English is still, I'd say a little bit, no, I don't know. Maybe my Japanese has overtaken it. I don't know, at nighttime we only speak Japanese, so I don't get to hear her English as much anymore. Is all that too personal? Well, I guess not. I've just answered everything. Okay. He's got the last question here, so I'll elaborate a little bit more. Do you have any funny stories? This story is almost unbelievable, but it's great. You're probably gonna be like, really? Really? Are you sure? I met a girl one time. I saw her on the train. She was reading an English book. If you must know what English book it was A Walk to Remember. And me being Mr. Nampa Jackass, I walked up to her and I was like, oh, so you're reading that? You know, I've seen the movie. And she was like, oh wow, this is my favorite book. And she started talking to me in English. So this is like back when I couldn't speak any Japanese yet. It's like my first couple months here. So she was really excited that I started talking to her. She's like, you know, it's funny, I was going to talk to you today on the train, and you came up and talked to me first. And I was like, wow, that is a little bit crazy. I mean, that's kind of a coincidence that I would talk to you on the day that you decided you wanted to talk to me. But I didn't think anything of it. And then right when we were about to leave, she's like, since I was going to talk to you, I'd already written down all my information. Here it is. And she gave me this note with like her like Twitter, Facebook, MySpace, Hotmail, Gmail. Like I was just like, oh, okay, that's cool. I'll message you. And so I did that. And she was like, okay, this Friday, like it was Monday when I met her. She's like, this Friday, let's have a date. And I was like, all right, sweet. I mean, she was a pretty cute girl. I was pretty stoked, I gotta say. I mean, you know, I'll give anybody a chance, but I'm even more stoked when it's a cute girl. So she shows up and she's like, I wanted to make you something special, so I brought you this card. And it was a big card, it was handmade, and I was like, oh wow, this is quite a card. I mean, it was 8 by 11, and then it unfolded, so it got, you know, double the size. It was huge. And this is kind of where, you know, you heard the needle come off the record, you know, for the date. I opened it up, and inside, she had gone to every single one of my networking profiles, such as Facebook and MySpace, back when I had MySpace, and found any picture she could of me on the internet. And she had printed it out, cut it out, and then printed out pictures of herself and cut those out too, and put them next to each other, like we're like dating, like we're like, here's us and, you know, the Eiffel Tower drinking wine. I've never been there, but you've cut me out and put me there. That's great. So that was interesting. Let's put it that way. That was interesting. She was just, I mean, she was a really nice girl. She was very naive. It was probably her first date she had ever been on, even though she was 25. And I was 27 at the time, so I'm not some kind of lecherous bastard, you know. It was the last date also. It was the first day and last date because I was a little bit creeped out. I had never experienced anything like that. She is probably a wonderful girl, and she's going to make somebody very happy. But not me, because I'm already married. So there's a good story for you, right? That's got to be pretty decent. When I tell my friends that story, they're like, no, what movie did you see that in? The movie of my life. Okay, that about wraps it up, guys. Thanks for these questions again. This was another Facebook JFAQ. Until next time, I'm Unrested, and this is JFAQ. Peace!